Hi, good evening. How are you? This is Santiago Valencia coming to you once again. This is video 3 of 5 on a review of the Mike Ferry Organization Action Workshop. I'm here right now in Las Vegas taking this workshop, and I thought that I would go ahead and do a video review of each day as it comes by. So again, this is video number 3 out of 5. Yesterday I went ahead and gave you a summary of what we had done in class. A little recap of what we did yesterday was basically just going over the basics, going over what cold calling was all about, going over about what the philosophies of Mike Ferry's organization seminars are all about. It was a good introduction, and I enjoyed it very much. Today the mood was strong and positive, lots of people wanting to learn, and we were all in the groove and learning what we had learned yesterday. We kind of knew what the flow of things were going to be for today. We were used to that from yesterday and ready to go ahead and learn a little bit more. So let's start in. One of the first things that we went over today was 3 ways to get a deal. The 3 ways: number 1, waiting; number 2, buying; and number 3 is finding. So let's go over number 1. Waiting for business is examples of this is kind of like doing open houses or having floor time at your brokerage, maybe waiting for a referral. Those are ways of waiting. This way is actually kind of passive, something that they're not too crazy about. Not to say that it doesn't work. It can definitely work, but you will probably never get to 15, 25 or more deals a year just by waiting. Number 2 was buying your business. Examples of this was running an ad, maybe doing a billboard or those ads that you find at the bus stops, sending out lots of mailers. Also buying your leads. Sometimes you can buy large lists of people's addresses, phone numbers, locations, things like that. So this is another example of buying your business. And the third way is finding. This one is by far the most proactive way to go about things. Finding could be including like door knocking or cold calling, actually being in front of your potential prospect and going ahead doing it that way. So that's the finding way. Building skills and setting your right attitude for success was another thing that we went over today. How am I perceived by the public? How am I dressed? How do I talk? How's my vocabulary? What's my style and how I go about things? So this is something that we as agents need to work on if we haven't already, and take a look at ourselves to see how others might perceive us. And that's a pretty important thing to do once you start going out into the real world and prospecting. 3 ways to generate business. Now, the Mike Ferry organization had 3 methods, and I'm going to share with those 3 with you right now. Number 1, the slow response technique. Number 2, the future response technique. And number 3 is the immediate response technique. Let's go over these real quick. In my little book that I have here, they gave us a little bit of a list of the things that might be examples for these 3 responses, and I'm going to share those with you right now. An example of number 1, the slow response technique can be open houses, floor time, networking organization. That's kind of a way to go about it, but it is definitely going to be a little slower, and you're going to take some more time into getting to signing a contract, to going into escrow, and ultimately getting a paycheck. It can happen, but it takes a little bit longer. The future response technique, number 2, an example of that would be knocking on doors, making a lot of phone calls, maybe doing public seminars, which is a nice thing. But again, that's a future technique, something that might happen in 6 months, give or take. And the third way is the immediate response technique. An example of that would be contacting expired, canceled, or withdrawn listings. Those that have already worked with a real estate agent and were probably open to doing it once again. Maybe even contacting for sale by owners, FSBOs. Let's see, also making working sign calls, things to that nature would be another example of doing the immediate response technique. Now, all the lead generation techniques are for the purpose of heading for high levels of production, to be profitable, and for you to be predictable and duplicatable. Now, this is something that I felt was very, very important to learn, and I'm going to go over it with you right now. They're very. Yesterday, I was talking about how they went ahead and did things, like the numbers game, and they had all these statistics, and they almost had it down to a science. Well, today I'm going to say that it really kind of is kind of like a science. They've been doing this for quite some time, and the point is that you want to be your actions and your methods. You want them to be predictable. Why do you want them to be predictable? Because if they're predictable and you do A, B, C, X, Y, Z, then guess what? They're predictable, and you can then go back and duplicate the same thing all over again. So by being predictable, you're able to be duplicatable, which means you can do it all over again and replicate the success that you already had. So that is very, very important. We also went over the just listed and just sold scripts. Yesterday, we went over a 2-line script, which was kind of our intro to scripts. And today we went a little bit more in depth by learning 2 more longer scripts. Again, the first one was just listed, and the second one was the just sold script. We all kind of stood up in the room, kind of jumped up and down, got the energy and the juices flowing, and we went over these scripts over and over and over by yelling them out. It was kind of funny. But it was good because actually after about half an hour or so, we had them pretty well under our feet, under our fingers, and memorize a lot of it. So it was a really, really good thing. They're simple and they're direct, but they really do work. And if you go ahead and follow these scripts pretty much verbatim, you're going to be, ahead of the game. And they've been, again, researching these scripts for many, many years, so it seems to work. And they're simple and direct. When we went over these scripts, we had some variations on what can be said to you. Therefore, there's going to be a lot of times where you're going to be said no, or there's going to be a rejection given to you. And in those particular situations, what they had taught us is how to go ahead and handle that rejection, how to go ahead and respond to a flat out no, or even a hang up. So those were some things that are really important, because there's some of us, a lot of us really, that have a hard time handling rejection. So we went over on some techniques on how to go ahead and handle that rejection, kind of brush it off and move on to the next call. Selling is a numbers game. That is for sure. If you are going to go ahead and, let's say, call 100 people, you're probably only going to get 20, 30, 40, maybe 50 people that are actually going to pick up that phone. And out of those 20, 30, 40, 50 people that pick up the phone, you might only get 1 or 2 appointments. So it is a numbers game. The more you call, the more success you're going to have and getting more appointments. Let's go on to leads. Focusing on getting the good and quality leads and leaving out the rest. Okay. If you have a big pile of leads, and again, I'm going to go with the number 100, but let's say that 60 of those are not very good leads. And what's the difference between a good and a bad lead? Well, a bad lead is someone who is either not really ready to make a move, who is not willing to make a move, or is not able to make a move. Those are leads that are going to cost you a lot more trouble and a lot more time, really. We kind of want to face those, realize that they're not great leads, get rid of them. Okay, because then we want to focus on the good leads. You don't want to hold on to leads that aren't ready to sell or buy. You don't want to hold on to leads that you can't get an appointment with. Now, the one thing interesting that we learned today about these so-called bad leads is that they contaminate all the good ones. Again, if you have 100 leads and 60 of them are bad, it's harder to find those 40 that are good. So again, you want to get rid of those 60 leads that are bad so you can then focus on the good stuff. Okay. Now, everybody has the same leads in your neighborhood. Okay. It's just a way of life. So what do? If your competitor, agent, has pretty much the same list of leads, then what are you going to do so that you can top him? Well, the idea was to contact this lead more frequently and more often than your competitor. So go ahead and overcall them. And there are techniques for that, but that's just the bullet point on that. The higher the quality the lead is, the less work it is. It's true. If you have a lead, like I said before, that isn't ready to buy, isn't willing to buy, you're going to be chipping away at that lead a lot harder, and in the end, it might not really generate anything for you. As opposed to if you're dealing with a really good lead, they're ready to go, they're willing to buy, and they're able to buy, they're going to be a lot more receptive and open for you to get an appointment because they want to move fast too. So ironically, the good leads take less work for you to work. If people are ready to buy, then they're ready. It's just as simple as that. Moving on. Calling and contacts. Making time for calling. Setting up your office atmosphere. The Mike Ferry organization are a little bit, the followers, like I said yesterday, are a little bit, how shall I say, a little anal about this. But you know what? There's a reason for it. It works. I know that there are some top producers back in Los Angeles that I know that are very, very disciplined about getting up in the morning and making their calls from 8 to 10 or 9 to 10 or 9 to 11 or sometime in the afternoon they go ahead and go do their door knocking. They're very, very, very disciplined about this, and that is something that the Mike Ferry organization really stresses, is to go ahead and be very, very disciplined about it. You can be organized, but if you're not actually doing the work and being disciplined about it, then it's not going to turn out for you. If you wanted to go ahead and learn piano, you have to be disciplined to go ahead and practice every single day. By the end, you're going to have a lot of songs learned and a lot of those songs under your fingers. If you're trying to lose weight, for example, you have to go to the gym or run or swim or whatever you're going to do, but you have to do it with discipline. You have to set out what you plan to do in order for you to get those results. And it's no different here when you're going ahead and doing your cold calls or your door knocks or your open houses or whatever you're going to do. But the key is to be disciplined and just go ahead and do it. Otherwise, you're not going to reach the success goals that you've made for yourself. One guideline that was set to us today on cold calling was 20 contacts a day. Now, let me define this for you. A contact is not a phone call, okay? If you go ahead and make that phone call and no one answers, that's not a contact. It's only a contact if someone actually picks up the phone and talks to you and you connect with them. That's one contact, okay? So the idea is to try to make 20 contacts a day, which means that you're going to be spending about 2 to 3 hours a day on the phone doing these cold calls, and then that would be done 5 days a week. By the end of the week, you're actually going to have about 100 contacts in a month, which of course translates to about 1,200 contacts in a year. Now, this is the way that you go about it. This is the way you go ahead and start building your database and building your whole system for yourself. So go ahead and make sure that you're making those contacts, whether mostly by phone or in person if you're going to be doing door knocking. But 20 contacts a day is the rough guideline. The top producers go ahead and even do more. They do probably between 30 and 35, maybe even 40 contacts a day. But again, you have to schedule that time for yourself to go ahead and do those calls at your desk, at your office, wherever your place is that you've set up for yourself. Keeping a lead for a certain amount of time, depending on how many deals you want a year, depends on how long you keep the lead. Now, they had some really interesting math on this. Depending on how many deals you want to do in a year, you have to try to get those leads in and out. The good leads you'll hold on to, the bad ones you get rid of, like I said. But you can only hold on to a specific lead for a specific amount of time if you want to do a specific amount of deals per year. And they had, again, like I said, a little bit of math to go along with that. If the lead is no good, in other words, if you're on the phone and saying, "Hey, how are you? My name is Santiago Valencia, la 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 la. Are you planning to move anytime soon?" "No, I'm not planning to move." You get a hang up or no. Okay, then you move on. If they're being really nice to you, and most people are going to be pretty nice to you on the phone, you go ahead and they say, "No, I'm not ready to move," and they've said that to you a couple times, and you've actually, after a minute or two, just decided that, yeah, these people aren't ready, then just thank them for their time and move on to the next call. Okay? Always be polite. Lots of agents there today have been in the business for a long time. There were some agents there, it was quite interesting to me, that were making over 50 transactions a year. There were actually a couple of them there that were making about 100 deals a year, and they were still there for training. I thought that was pretty impressive in my opinion. You know, you're pretty, as far as I'm concerned, if you're doing between 50 and 100 deals a year, that's pretty impressive, and that's pretty much top producer status. But even when you're being a top producer like that, you're still going ahead doing the training. I know a lot of these people have already done the Mike Ferry system and they've done the training before, but they go back for a refresher course, and I thought that was very, very good of them. And it's something that a lot of the top agents go ahead and do. Retrain. Going back to the basics. The Mike Ferry organization has been around for about 35 years. Agents believe that it works, and it does. It has to be in order for this thing to keep going. There are some people back in Los Angeles, where I'm from, that I know are very hardcore Mike Ferry followers, you know, however you want to say it, lack for a better term, but they really follow the system down to a science, and they keep it to heart, and they're very disciplined about it. So it was something that I thought was really cool. Other things that we went over was the 3-3-3 rule. Also, another thing that we went over was the follow-up system. Follow-up system can be as simple as do like a 3x5 card system for yourself in a little pack. Put the name, phone number, address, the motivation of what they're moving. So you keep those leads in a little 3x5 card. If you want to take it a step further, you go ahead and do something like a digital system. And examples of this digital follow-up system would be like Top Producer, Sharper Agent, Salesforce, or Act if you're on a Windows platform. So it's something you should probably research and see what works for you. Now, this video is a really good summary of what we went over today, but I've decided that I'm not going to include everything that we went over today, and the reason for that is because I feel that if I did that, then I would probably be cheating you. Let me explain. If you went for yourself, which by the way I think is very, very much worth it, you go ahead and connect with others. You will get charged by all the energy in the room, and you will get your answers specifically, your questions specifically answered by the instructor. You really can't do that. You don't have that interaction through a book or even through this video or any other notes that you might find on the internet. Going there, it's not super expensive, but like today's, this whole action workshop, I think was about a couple $100. So I feel that it's actually really, really worth it. So I don't want to cheat you by telling you everything that's on here, just to give you a little bit of a summary of everything that's going on. Okay, well, like yesterday, I'm going to go ahead and share our homework with you. Our first homework assignment that we got today was number 1, call every lead that you didn't call yesterday. Number 2, you go ahead and pick a neighborhood and start calling using the just listed and just sold scripts that were gone over with us today. So those were our 2 homework assignments for today. So again, just wanted to give you a little summary on everything that went on today. That today was day 2 out of 4. This video is number 3 out of 5, and I'll have another video for you guys tomorrow when I finish the Mike Ferry Action Workshop day number 3. Thank you very much, everybody, and have a great night. We'll see you next time. Thank you.